Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Alberta, and I'm excited to be here live with you this week. I've got two fun projects that I'm going to share with you. It's the same card layout, using the same stamp set, but two very different looks. So I can't wait to share that with you. But before we get started, let me just announce the winner of last week's cards. So last Friday, I created this in the live, and thank you to everyone who watched, who commented, who shared, just participated in the conversation. I appreciate you all. So I entered everybody's name into the Wheel of Names, and Wendy Carr is the lucky winner of this card. And then I had also done a reel last week for this card, and I thought I would give this one away as well. And Layla is the lucky winner of this card. So Wendy, I don't believe I have your mailing address. So if you're watching, make sure that you send me a message, but I will reach out to you as well. All right, Layla, I do have yours. So congratulations, ladies. And if you would like to win one of the two cards that I'm creating today, just make sure that you participate in the conversation and or share the video if you enjoy the video. All right, now before we jump into the project, I thought it would be fun to share a little peek at the way I'm documenting this year. So I'm documenting kind of the little snippets or the everyday stuff a little bit differently this year. I found this crate at the dollar store. I think it was $1.50. And I thought it would be fun to do kind of like a little, just little cards to document kind of like the everyday stuff. So I thought that the last Friday of every month, I could share kind of like my progress. Now, not a lot has gotten done so far, but I wanted to share what I keep in this, where I keep it, and kind of a little peek. Okay, so I had shared the actual front, how I decorated the front. Now, this was a gray wooden crate, and I didn't want it gray, so I just painted it with white. I painted a couple coats of white on there, and then I decorated the front. I used some dies from the Honeybee, the Alphabet a la Mode. I used some of the Regency Park DSP, and then I did my first insert. So let me hold it up again. So this is what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to purposely do my inserts in varying sizes because I want this to be really full and have lots of kind of texture and just look really cool sitting on the shelf. I mean, it doesn't look really cool right now. It's just got one insert, but I'll share the other bits and pieces that I have here afterwards. So let me share this first insert. So again, I wanted this first one to kind of coordinate with the cover of the crate or the front of the crate. So I used kind of similar, I used paper from the same collection. This is from Color Cast. It was a piece in my collection. And that's another thing is I really want to use what I have in my stash to document just kind of everyday stuff. So, and then I had a bunch of photos that I wanted to include. So I included this little, kind of like a little mini album that kind of flips open. So you just untie it and then it lifts up like this. So I was documenting kind of some of the things that I've created so far this year. So, and that's why I stamped Made with Love. This is from a stamp set from the annual catalog. And then it just ties closed. So I did it so that I put dimensionals just on the bottom so that I could slip this underneath and then tie it. And then I added a bit of journaling on the back. So that's kind of my intention. Every card will look a little bit different and use different product. I'm not going to stick with the same product for the entire year. That would get boring real fast. But I just thought this would be fun and something a little bit different. So let me share what I've got in here. So first of all, I need to share a photo of this on my blog. So I always do a little supply list so that when I'm ready to do that blog post, I have it handy. And then I gathered just kind of a few things that I had in my stash. Excuse me. A few things that I had in my stash that were either gifted to me or I had purchased that I thought would be really good for some of the photos that I have coming up. And I'm just keeping these in the bin. Now, I won't keep these in the bin the entire year. I have lots of room in this bin right now. So that's why I'm keeping them in there, just so that they're handy and to make it look like it's a little bit more full. The other thing is I'm going to keep track of the photos that I want to include in here. So these creative project ones were the only ones that I had printed when I sat down and did this, but I've got more that I want to document. And today is a photo printing day. I try to print my photos either once a month or sometimes a little bit more often if I know that I've got some big projects coming up. So today I will print off the rest of these, and then hopefully at the end of February, I will have lots more to show you. Okay, but I keep this in here, and then I've got a little check. So if I've printed the photos, I will check that. If I've scrapped them, I will check that. And then I'll just put them kind of in here until I'm ready to work on them. All right, so I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing this, but I just thought it would be fun. And plus it would hold me accountable if kind of the last Friday of every month, I kind of shared kind of my progress on this project. I think it's gonna be really fun. All right, so let's set this aside and get into our crafting. Now, I just want to point out that I cannot see your comments today, so I will go back. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments and I will go back and read those comments. I do all the time. All right, I appreciate all of your comments. Okay, so today we are going to use the Thanks a Bunch. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but all week long I've been creating projects with this. I started off with Traveler's Notebook size layout on Monday for Memory Keeping Monday. And then on Wednesday, I shared a square card using this set. And today I'm going to share 2 more cards created using this set. Okay, so let me grab some of the pieces here. All right, we are going to use some of our watercolor paper. So in our catalog, we have this Fluid 100 watercolor paper. It's 5 by 7 and it's fabulous paper. So if you're doing anything that requires lots of moisture, this is a great paper to turn to. But if you don't have that, you can also use our shimmery white paper. That's also a great option. And we're going to use the carrots. So we're going to create some carrots. So I'm starting with some Mango Melody. And I've got one of our Stampin' spritzers filled with water. And I'm just going to ink this up. And then spritz it. Now, I don't want to get everything wet here. I'm holding it, I don't know, about that far away. Spritz it a few times. And then I'm going to stamp it down on my watercolor paper. Okay, and I'm going to do that. I want 3 of those carrots, but I've got some that are already done. Now, while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to do the same thing with the leaf. So I'm going to use Garden Green this time. And do the same thing, just kind of move this out of the way. And then stamp that on there. Okay, and then we're going to bring in the details for the carrot. So this is a 2-step stamp. So you can use the carrot just like that, or you can add a little bit more dimension and color. This time I'm using pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to get over top here, line this up, and then stamp it down. Now you can miss this one as well, but I didn't want it to be too much of a watercolor look. So I chose to use that one just as it's intended to be used, so without the misting. So I'm just gonna wipe this, make sure it's not wet. So you'll wanna repeat that 3 times, 3 carrots and 3 leaves for this particular project. Okay, so we're gonna set those aside, and let's just wipe this. And we'll clean this. I have a cleaner here somewhere because we're going to use it on the next card. So we'll get these ready to go. Okay. All right, next up, I'm going to bring in a piece of crumb cake cardstock. Now, if you're looking for the dimensions, they will all be in today's blog post, which will go live shortly after I'm done here. Okay, and I'm using some soft suede ink. Just tap off the excess and add a little bit of color kind of in the middle of my crumb cake cardstock. You can make it as dark as you want it. I just want it to be just a little bit darker, kind of in behind where my carrots are going to go. Okay, that should be good. We'll keep that open. I'm going to use that again in a minute. And then I'm going to take my soft suede Stampin' blend. So these are our alcohol markers. I love to splatter with these markers. And I'm just going to tap it a few times with my bone folder. That's going to give me this nice fine splatter in the background. And then I'm going to choose from the stamp set this little image right here. And we're going to do a little bit of stamping. Now with these smaller images, I find that you'll end up with a nicer impression if you just tap lightly. You don't need to smush the stamp into your ink pad. Just a gentle tap is perfect. Let's do one up here. Okay, we'll see how that looks. We can always go back and add more if we need to. Let's give this a quick clean. All right, now we're going to do one more thing to this piece. We're going to take our paper snips and I'm going to open them up and I'm going to use them to distress around the edges. I love doing this. It just gives your project so much texture and it's such an easy thing to do. Doesn't require any extra supplies. Does make a bit of a mess though. If you still have our old distressing tool that we carried years and years ago, if you've been around Stampin' Up! A long time, then that will work as well. Okay, I'll just brush this onto the floor. Okay, now I want to curl this up a little bit, so I'm going to take my fingers and just kind of roll the corner just a little bit. And I'm going to manipulate it back and forth. And you can roll it as much as you want. Okay, I'm happy with the way that looks. All right, so let's bring in some of our other layers and start putting our card together. Now I've got a piece of soft suede cardstock that is slightly larger. Just add a little bit of multi-purpose glue in behind. And add this on top. And then our card base is going to be a piece of crumb cake cardstock. And we'll do the same thing. Add this on the card base. So we're really just using stamps, ink, and cardstock today. Actually, well, and we're throwing in some embellishments as well. I can't create a card without embellishments, but we're not die cutting anything. We're not embossing anything. So no die cutting machine today. All right. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to work on our focal point. So like I said, we had stamped 3 carrots and 3 leaves, and you'll notice that each one that you stamp will look a little bit different based on how much water and how much ink that you had, and that's part of the charm of this technique. So we're going to flip these carrots over, and we're going to add some dimensionals to the back. So I'll start with this guy. And we'll pop this kind of in the middle. And then we'll do this one. And this time I'm going to pop the dimensionals kind of a little bit closer to the right hand side. Or when we flip it over, it will be the left. And we'll just overlap that a little bit. And then this guy, I'm going to put them closer to the left on the back so that when I flip it over, they'll be on the right hand side. Okay, now we're going to take our bone folder. We're going to give these a bit of dimension by just kind of curling them up. And then we'll use a little bit of multi-purpose glue to kind of tuck these in. You know, I never thought I needed a stamp set that had carrots on it, but oh my gosh, this is just the cutest stamp set. And like the sentiments are just, they're sentiments that I would use. Oops. Well, everything's coming up carrots. Might not be one that I use too often, although I did use it on the layout that I shared on Monday. All right, now I want to add a little bit of texture, so I'm going to take some linen thread, because you know me, I can't do a project without either twine or thread on it, right? Gotta have that little bit of fiber, a little bit of texture. Okay, and we'll grab a mini glue dot. I'm gonna pop this right in the middle. We'll add our carrots on there. Okay, and now we need to work on a greeting. So I have a scrap piece of white here, and I'm going to use the greeting that says, "There's no one quite like you." And I'm going to use some soft suede ink. And just stamp this on here. And I bring in my paper trimmer, trim it down a little bit. And we can make it a bit shorter. Okay. And then this is going to get added right here. So I'm going to put a dimensional on the right-hand side, and then just a little bit of multi-purpose glue on the left where it'll sit on top of the carrots, because the carrots are already popped up. Oops. So we'll pop that on there like that. Okay, and then we need a little bit of bling. So I'm going to pull in one of my favorite embellishments from the January to April mini catalog. I love these adhesive backed milky dots. And let's see, let's use some yellow. Just pop 3 of them on here. And there's the outside of our card. Now I wanted to decorate the inside a little bit. So what I did was I pulled out some DSP. So this is the Day at the Farm DSP. Such a cute, fun, patterned paper. So here's what it looks like on one of the sides. And then we flip it over and we've got a fun pattern on the back. So I thought that I would use, this one would be cute, but I found that the carrots were a Cajun craze color. So I decided to use this yellow striped pattern. Now there is a bundle in the January to April mini catalog that coordinates with this DSP. It's called On the Farm. It's on page 34. So you can check that out. But we've got a 2.5 inch by about 6 inch piece. And then, I don't know, this is maybe 3/4 of a piece of a strip. And I'm just going to take this smaller strip, this narrower strip, add it to a piece of soft suede, because I wanted to bring in a little bit of soft suede to the inside, because when you open the card, you'll see the crumb cake. Okay, and I'll pop this on here, line it up with the top. And then trim off the excess. All right, and then we're going to take in the stamp set, which I forgot to mention, this is a celebration stamp set. So the only way that you can get this stamp set is by placing a $60 order, and then you can choose this for free. Same with the Day at the Farm DSP. So that's in the celebration brochure, and we're going to use these two images here. So there's actually three different size carrots. There's the large one that we use, there's a medium size, and then there's a cluster of small ones. So we're going to use that cluster of small ones, and we're going to stamp them in pumpkin pie. And I'm just going to stamp them in the corner. I'm not going to bother to spritz these ones, but you definitely could. And then I'll bring in some garden green for the top. And then I also want to add the thanks on the inside. So I'm going to bring back my soft suede and stamp the word thanks right here. Such a cute card. And I don't know, there's something about these carrots. I just love these carrots. So I wanted to bring in the carrots on the inside as well. Pop that on the inside. So it's pretty on the outside and the inside. Even this alone, like if you needed a couple quick thank you notes, isn't this a great little thank you note? You could just do a quarter sheet of white with a strip of pattern paper, a little strip of cardstock underneath with just a quick little, something pretty in the corner with thanks, and then you can write your message on there, and you've got some really quick, simple thank you cards that you could hand out to people. I think it's so cute. All right, and now we're going to do our envelope flap to match. So I'm just going to use a little bit of multi-purpose glue. And we'll pop this in the corner. I love using multi-purpose glue for this because you have the flexibility to kind of slide it around. Oh, and you know what? It's not quite long enough. Look at that. You can see that. And now, of course, it's set. That's okay. I've got a solution for that. All right. Let's cut around this. So 2.5 inches is plenty for this. This must be, I must have cut a sliver off of this and then just assumed it was 2.5 inches. Okay, so we've got this little bit, but you know what we'll do? We're just going to trim this so that it's straight. I'm not trimming too much off, so it's not going to affect the way it adheres. There we go. And no one will be any wiser, right? All right, so there is the first card. Look how cute that is. I absolutely love it. I love all the texture, little bit of bling, just the layers on the background. So we did some ink blending, we stamped, we did some splattering, just simple little techniques that just add so much to the card. Okay, so now we're going to create the exact same layout. So we're using the same measurements and everything, but the card is going to look completely different. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me just make sure that all my stamps are clean here first. Okay, and I cleaned my carrots, so that should be good. All right. Okay, so this time we're going to use green. So we're using Granny Apple Green and Garden Green are the two greens. So we're going to start with this piece. So this is the same layer as that initial layer of crumb cake that we used. And we're going to do some ink blending, but this time I'm going to use some balmy blue, and I'm going to use one of our new small blending brushes. All right, Now, I find that there is a difference between using the small and the regular ones. The small, I find you have a little bit more control. So in in this card, it didn't matter where it went. Like I kind of wanted to keep it to the center, but if it went out a little further, it was fine. Whereas this one, I really want to focus it closer to the center. So I'm just going to tap this off. But I do find that with the smaller bristle, you almost have to have an even lighter touch. Like they do, it does make a difference. I think because it's a smaller surface area that you're adding the ink to. Okay. All right. Okay, that looks good. We are going to leave this open because I am going to use it in a minute. But first I want to bring in this garden green, and I'm going to use this stamp. So this is the stamp it's this one here. So the one that I did in pumpkin pie to add the detail to the carrot. But this time I'm going to use it this way, and I'm going to use it as grass. Okay, so we're going to stamp that. So doesn't that look like grass? So fun. And then we can close this up for now. And we can put that aside. Now I'm going to bring back those little lines. Remember, we stamped those in soft suede on the previous card. This time we're going to do them in balmy blue. So it kind of looks, it just adds a little bit of detail to the sky. Okay, so we'll do that. And now we're going to work on our focal point. So I'm going to bring back my piece of watercolor paper, set this aside. I'm going to bring in my carrot, and I just realized I forgot a color. Okay, and we're going to use Granny Apple Green. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on the previous, like on our carrots, except instead of stamping it like this, we're going to stamp it like this. So let's mist this. Stamp it down. Now, when I'm doing this technique, I do like to hold it a little bit longer just so that the water can kind of soak in just a little bit. Just take my tissue and wipe that off. Wipe off my surface. Okay, we're done with this. And we'll want to stamp 3 of these. So if you're recreating this card, you'll want to stamp 3 of those. Now I'm going to bring in some garden green. And again, this detailed image. And I'm going to stamp over top. All right, so doesn't that look like a tree? So by flipping it over, you not only have carrots, but now you've got trees. So then when you cut those out, you've got 3 of those that look like that. Okay, so we'll bring back our focal point, and we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of these. So this stamp set is actually quite versatile. And we're going to add one here. And again, we're going to put them off to one side. And we're going to stagger this a little bit. We're going to put this one down a little lower. And then this one will go on here like this. And now we've got this cute little cluster of trees. Okay, so let's bring in our layers and have a look here. Okay, so I do want to repeat. I want to make this card as similar as I can to the last one that I made. So I'm going to distress the edges. Now I chose not to splatter this one. I didn't think it needed the splatter, but I am going to distress it. This would make a great masculine birthday card, but we're going to use the same ingredients. We're going to make it a thank you card. Okay, and then we're going to roll up this corner just like we did the last one. And then we'll add it to this piece of garden green. Let's pop this away. When I looked at both of these cards after I designed them, I couldn't choose which one I liked better. I really love how both of them turned out, and they're so very different, which is quite surprising considering we're using the same supplies. I mean, different colors, but the same supplies, including the same stamp set and the same layout. And this is going to go on our Granny Apple card base. Okay, now we need to work on kind of making it pretty, stepping it up just a little bit. So of course we're going to use some linen thread. Just tie a bow, trim it. Okay, and then we're going to do some stamping. I'm going to use the same greeting, except this time I'm going to use Memento ink. Oh, and I don't know if I cleaned this one. Let's just clean it, make sure. Okay, so the greeting, again, it says, "There's no one quite like you." And while we've got the black out, what did I do on the inside of this one? Oh, I didn't stamp. I didn't stamp on the inside of this one. Okay. All right, so let's bring back our paper trimmer, trim this down. All right. Bring back our card base, and we're going to add this guy with a mini glue dot. And we'll pop it on kind of right there beside the tree, so it's not adding any extra bulk. We'll add a mini glue or a dimensional on this side, and then a little bit of flat adhesive, just like we did on the last one. We'll pop that on there like that. And then we need some of our milky dots. Now I don't have any of the kind of white ones left. There were some white ones up there. The blue, I'm not sure about the blue, although it is in the sky. I don't know about the yellow. Let's try, these are kind of pink. Let's just see what they look like. Don't like that. Let's try the blue. You know what? We're going to do the blue. I think the blue will be good. So we'll just add 3 of these on here, like that. And there's the outside of our card. And then for the inside, I chose to use this pattern paper just because it's garden green and it coordinated. So this is also from A Day at the Farm DSP. Add that on here like that. Trim off the excess. And then we'll add this to the inside. And you know what? Let's go ahead and we can stamp this upside down, and it will look like trees just because it looks like the trees on the outside. So let's go ahead and repeat that same process that we did on the other one. I'm going to take these, stamp them on there. Kind of looks like an aloe vera plant, actually. You could put that, you could stamp that and do a little plant pot on the bottom, and you could have a little succulent. That would be cute. All right, and we'll take our thanks. And we'll stamp that in there. All right. And then I've got a piece here that I can use for the envelope flap, but just let me share. I've got one that's already done. So there we go. So there are our two cards that use the same supplies, the same layout, but look so very different. So what do you think? Doesn't that just open your eyes to that Thanks a Bunch stamp set, that carrot stamp set, just a little bit more? Such a fun stamp set. All right, so if you saw anything today that you liked and live in Canada, I would love for you to shop with me. I've included in the description the January host code. And if you have any questions, just post them in the comments and I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye, guys.